Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you and the ranking member for holding this hearing. To our witnesses today, thank you so much for being here and for the work you do. Mr. Weiler and Ms. Cooper, I just wanted to start with a question for the two of you. And first of all, thank you for your testimony. I come from a very rural and geographically diverse state. We're small, but we've got mountains, we've got seacoast, and just a few weeks ago, thanks to the chairman and ranking member, we had a field hearing in New Hampshire to explore the issue my constituents face when it comes to connectivity. And one of the more humorous parts of the hearing was when one of the providers said we have to be careful not to build duplicative capacity, and my constituents are like, we just would like capacity. You know, we're not worried about duplication yet. So I guess the question is, how can satellite provide a broadband solution for states like mine, and what's the role of satellite in a 5G America, especially with so many of our places, even though the maps may say we've got connectivity, but in reality, our citizens will tell us they don't. So, Ms. Cooper, why don't we start with you?
Thank you. That's a terrific question. I think it's the problem that all of us here are geared to solve using different architectures and different technology approaches, but I think it underlies the goal that all these companies here on the panel have. For us, we're looking at these constellations of satellites with multiple satellites in view so that you're not bound to one single path to reach a specific satellite. You would have multiple paths to multiple satellites, which we think will allow some currently blocked customers to have access to an infrastructure of high-speed capability and reliability. And then the next step is to make sure that the customer can afford a service that is appropriate to what their demands are. And that's the next step of ensuring that you drive the cost down of making lots of satellites, which is, I think, a strong suit of SpaceX, and using our manufacturing and innovation history to drive the costs of other complex satellite and launch systems downward. And also then the cost of deploying those systems has to be driven downward. Right. Certainly a factor of our launch heritage and our reusability. So all those pieces bring to bear these two problems. One of them is making sure you actually can reach the customer, and the second is making sure that the infrastructure that you're building that will be available, always on, is cost-effective and easily deployed from an architecture perspective. That's, I think, our approach here.
Thank you. And Mr. Weiler, did you want to comment?
Sure. Growing up in Boston on the border of New Hampshire and spending all the weekends there, I know your state well, and understand the issues and the challenges, especially when you get in the White Mountains, where you actually can't see through the mountain to hit satellites. And so lots of people, and this is sort of the same problem in Alaska and a lot of the northern states with a lot of satellites. You can't see, you literally just can't see them. So our satellites remain very high in altitude, almost straight up at all times. So you always have a vision of one or two or multiple more satellites at a time. The key is the terminal. The key is to have something small, lightweight, inexpensive. Okay. And the size is actually less important than the weight and the cost. And that's where people get, no one in rural New Hampshire, they're not going to care whether it's 1 foot, 2 foot, or 10 feet. They're going to care, is it cheap? Can I install it easily? And do I get really good internet access? Right. So what we're doing is bridging, we're flipping rural on its head. We're making rural faster than suburban. Okay. And so there's no reason that rural has to have that penalty.
Okay. Thank you. And yes, Mr. Spengler.
Yes, I just wanted to add to that. I think we all believe that to bridge the digital divide, it's going to take a combination of a lot of different technologies to get there. It may be direct-to-consumer by satellite. It may be enabling terrestrial networks in new ways. What I think people don't realize today, that satellite is currently in the backbone of a lot of wireless networks around the world. We're providing 2G and 3G services in lesser developed countries, and Intelsat today is providing 4G services, helping wireless companies extend their network in 4G in the U.S. So 5G is an extension of that, and we firmly believe that when it comes to rolling out 5G across the country, it is not going to get everywhere without the support of satellite. And satellite solutions are going to be essential to reaching those hard-to-reach locations and extending those capabilities out there in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Dockbrook, did you have anything to add?
No, I think that satellite today Thank you, thanks. Yeah, the satellite today, if you look at, we think a great model is satellite TV, where over 30 million people have satellite TV, and our ability to provide satellite internet basically corresponds exactly to satellite TV, a competitive service.
Well, thank you. I see my time is up. I have two other questions that I'll submit to you for the record, one about planning for resiliency in the light of natural disasters and the other about debris in space. And I look forward to your answers. Thanks.